Well met, and welcome back to the Guild Training Hall. This is Muscle and Magicka, and you, my friend, just accepted a quest. Today we are here to talk about quite possibly one of the greatest threats to your gains. No. I'm not talking about bro magicians. You can put your swords away. Don't worry, they have no power here. I'm talking about stress. Now, fortunately, we are not alone in this battle. In fact, we are aided by an extremely powerful avatar. In fact, let me just go ahead and summon him real quick. Hans Selye was an endocrinologist and also extremely proficient warrior of light, whose pioneering work back in the mid-1900s actually led to much of what we understand today about biological stress. He also had gas. No, that's not how I should have phrased that. He came up with GAS, which is an acronym that stands for General Adaptation Syndrome. It's basically a theory that describes the way in which our body deals with stress in 3 separate stages. Now, they're all different kinds of stress: physical, mental, emotional stress, but Selye found that the body actually deals with pretty much all types of stress in exactly the same fashion. Now, not all stress is bad. In fact, let's take a look at training, which might be considered a good stress, or as Selye would term it, eustress. When we train at the gym and lift weights, we are, in essence, providing our body with a stressor in the form of weight. Now, the first stage of the stress response is called alarm reaction. This is when our body makes short-term adaptations in the moment in order to deal with the problem at hand, such as increased oxygen and blood flow, the releasing of various hormones, better neural recruitment, all things which, in the moment, in the short term, help us lift those, well, heavy-ass weights. The second stage is known as resistance development, and this is when our body, who, by the way, is not about that stress life, basically says, why don't I make some long-term adaptations so I don't have to hear this noise and go through this nonsense again? Hence, muscle hypertrophy. The third and final stage of the stress response is called exhaustion, and this is what happens when the body is exposed to prolonged or intolerable amounts of stress, which eventually leads to breakdown or injury. Stress fractures, joint pain, muscle strain, emotional fatigue, and so on and so forth. And this is when we start to move from eustress, or good stress, to distress, or bad stress.
What did I do?
Remember that physical stress is not the only kind of stress that we have to learn how to balance. We also encounter on a daily basis mental stress from work, emotional stress from relationships, virtual stress from the fact that we suck at RTS or even worse at MOBAs, and every time we even think about logging into an FPS game, we get automatically mercilessly spawn camped. Oh, you don't have that one? Yeah, neither do I. The point is, the reason that we experience so many negative effects from stress is that we are not just subjecting ourselves to it 1 to 2 hours a day, maybe 3 to 6 days a week when we're in the gym. We're doing this to ourselves pretty much 24/7 anymore. And as Selye found, our body responds to all stress in exactly the same fashion. It's just that instead of resulting in muscle hypertrophy, the specific adaptation that our body makes to deal with the constantly elevated blood pressure brought about by all this stress is by making us some arterial wall gains and increasing the thickness of our arteries. And I know that sounds like a good thing because I said the word gains, but what I just described is the beginnings of cardiovascular disease. Now, there are a number of ways that we can manage our stress. In the gym specifically, we have periodization, periods of overreaching, underreaching, deloads, things like that. However, outside of the gym, there are other ways you can decrease your stress through proper breathing mechanics, increased quality and quantity of sleep, better nutrition, and all of these things are things that we will cover in the future. But for now, you simply need to know that stress is not just some passive proc that doesn't affect you. It is an active debuff that you should be aware of and that you should learn to manage just like the rest of your buffs and debuffs. Anyway, I hope you gained some experience points from this. If you leveled up, don't forget to like the video. And if you want to continue your training in fitness and nutrition, in strength and wisdom through future quests, subscribe to the channel and join the Order of Muscle and Magicka. Until next time, my friends, Godspeed. Stay vigilant.
What's on your mind?
We elevated blood.